So we've had a new upgrade pack yesterday and it has definitely split opinions. Is it worth it? Should you be doing it? And I think it's an interesting one to see if this is just an early access upgrade and we are going to get repeatable upgrades over the course of the weeks like we normally do on Monday. It did come out on Monday, so that does reinforce the fact that Monday's still upgrade days. Woo! But you can only do 3 a day, which I get. Maybe it's the early access, I'm hoping so. But then the big thing is the fact that it is 7 rares. Now, obviously in the past, we normally have either less cards in there, so for instance, 4 rares and it only requires 6 players, or 2 rares and it requires 7. We've had every different combination going, and the big thing with these are the rares are not necessarily worth anything already. Like, yes, there's obviously some players that are still worth something in terms of like a Barcola who's 80, 81 rated, but still a couple of K. But for the majority, EA, if you've not already seen with rewards from squad battles, rivals, champs, have taken a massive upvote on them. So could you argue that yes, they may be a little bit expensive, they may take a little bit more time, but the fact that they've given us a duplicate storage, they've made it that pretty much everybody gets rares as long as you play the game, isn't that the factor of what they're doing here? They don't just give loads new cards, like they give you like 80 players, or I think it's something stupid like 100 and something 80 plus players if you go like 13 wins in champs. That is not going to come at nothing. You're not going to get nothing kind of back from that. Like, they are always going to take it from somewhere else. Either it's going to be bigger SBC requirements, it's going to be more SBC requirements. So for me, I kind of was understanding that this was always going to happen, because obviously they don't just let you have more rewards to then do the exact same. They're always pushing for more content, and they're always pushing to try and get fodder as much in the bin as possible. So when it comes to these, I think depending on how much you play the game, it's not necessarily the worst. Like, if you could do an unlimited amount, maybe it gets a bit costly, because obviously that would spike prices. Then it would become increasingly expensive to do these off coins, or you have to obviously go and buy FC points to get more packs to do them, which is definitely what I would assume they were going to do. But in terms of this, I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing for 3 times a day. I just think that definitely this could be, hopefully, an early access kind of thing, rather than necessarily what we're going to see crazy amounts of during the Monday upgrades. I can see them being repeatable still, and hopefully this is just to try and whittle everybody's fodder down that little bit more, just until the game fully releases from the standard. So whether I'd like this to continue, I personally wouldn't. I think 7 rares, you'd kind of got a lot of commons that you can kind of deal with. But what you kind of just have to do then really is, if there isn't necessarily as many commons going in, for instance, every 7 rares that you're utilizing, you're giving up only 4 commons. All you do there is you just put the rest of the commons into gold upgrades, and then you'd go that way. That way is just the easiest thing to do then, because obviously you will get more rares back, and it just filters round as normal. So it's not necessarily the be all and end all of it. I understand that necessarily it's not the greatest thing to happen when it comes to the upgrades, but they definitely could have just made it 11 rares and just said, you know what, let's deal with it. But the fact that you can only do it 3 times a day is always going to keep the price nice and down, especially when everybody's getting untradeable rewards now. Pretty much most packs will give you that, so it's not necessarily crazy killing bank accounts right now. So overall, I think what I've got from the packs has not been incredible, unless we got to walk out there. So it's not necessarily the biggest thing. I've done 2 sets of them, so only 6. So it's a very small sample size. But it is an interesting one to see what we get in the future. This first Monday coming, when the game's fully released, it'll be very interesting to see what sort of upgrades we get. I can imagine some sort of 75, 77, or maybe even a 78 times something, times 2, times 3 will be in fact there. But is it actually going to be as crazy SBC requirements as this one? Like, do we see the 7 rares again? That'll be the interesting factor to it. But let me know down below, are you going to complete? Personally, I'm going to. I don't see the issue with it too much, especially as there's only 7 days of it as well. I could definitely throw fodder into worse places, and most definitely have done in previous years for gold upgrades, as obviously that is a 75 times 2, doesn't require the rares, so you can just whack all of your commons in there anyway. But let me know down below what you think. I don't necessarily see too much of an issue as long as it doesn't continue and we actually get some decent repeatables.